queers who forget about struggling to adult, we're struggling to human.
At least that's what everyone's telling us.
You're right.
Per usual. Hey, I'm Angela, bringing sense to the conversation. From here on my soapbox, I shed light on the things society doesn't want you to talk about. You know, the real shit that matters: intersectional thinking, sexuality, queerness, neurodiversity, consent, and the fact that self-care is bullshit. For me, it's all about community and how we can care for each other.
And I'm Molly, giving a big fork you to cookie cutter solutions. I help burnt out, busy as fuck, neurodivergent, and queer entrepreneurs make shit happen by providing out of the box solutions and sustainable systems to grow your biz. For me, it's all about doing what makes sense for your brain.
Enough with the chit chat. Let's get to it.
Keep listening, and together we'll explore the drudgery, dreams, and all that shit in between. Get ready to call bullshit on what everyone's saying you should be doing,
as we navigate the spectrum between what really matters to you and the shit keeping you from it.
Hey, everybody. Oh my gosh.
Morning.
So today we realized we hadn't really talked about stimming a lot in our conversations, and there are a lot of times that we get questions that we don't think, oh, we really need to talk about these things. And
then I lost my favorite stim tool.
And then you lost your favorite stim tool.
And then other things happened, which we'll share today.
Yes. And we also realized after like hearing from several listeners that there's like a very specific part of the journey that people are on right now, and or are either getting into or getting out of or kind of in the middle of. Hey, the drudgery, dreams, and in between. And that is like the sense that you feel like you're neurodivergent and you're not sure what flavor of neurospicy you are. But then people are telling you, you couldn't be neurodivergent because, you know, you breathe, or whatever else.
It does feel like that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's utter bullshit that they provide. And so if this is the first episode you're listening to, welcome. We recognize self-diagnosis here. So if you are feeling called to the neurodivergent world, community, people, welcome. We acknowledge that you are neurodivergent, and we're going to confirm that for you, because if you think you are, you probably are. But one thing that really is universal, regardless of your neurospicy flavor or if you are neurotypical, regulation of your body is very, very important. And everybody gets dysregulated from time to time. We as neurodivergent individuals just tend to get dysregulated a lot fucking more. And so it's really important for us to understand why this is happening. I feel like knowledge is power for a lot of different reasons. And knowledge is not necessarily readily available to everybody for a lot of different reasons. And so we definitely want to provide some knowledge to you so that you can gain some tools in your toolbox. I know that sounds cliche, but like legitly, having tools in your toolbox when it comes to regulation is extremely, extremely helpful. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the senses today. They're Angela's favorite thing to talk about. It's Angela Stims. And we're going to talk about ways that you can stim, like ways we personally stim or our family members stim. We'll talk a little bit about tics because I have Tourette's. And so stimming and ticking are kind of a lot when it comes to body dysregulation. And then
for those of you listening, Molly just brought all of her hands together and like smushed them together. That's what she was meaning by blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
They're interconnected.
They're interconnected and they kind of like weave together, and it's kind of hard to pull them apart. It's like one of those finger trap toys. So, and all of this will be helping us find some regulation. And
I'm sorry, but I have to do this.
Yes.
You're a finger trap toy. Okay. Anyway,
well, Angela, you made me
12-year-old brain can Might
Yeah.
be here today.
It's fine. It's okay. To everyone who is not watching but is listening, Angela also has Foxy, which,
I do.
if you've been on our website or social media, Foxy makes a presence frequently, and it's like part Squishmallow, part Fox. Um, um, anyway, so all of these things that we're going to talk about today are just going to try and help give you some introductory into finding some regulation for yourself, and just better understanding what's happening in your body.
And permission to let go of all of the shame for
Oh,
the
yeah.
things that help you feel good so you can do what you want to do.
Yes. Um, okay. So I think that the one myth we need to kind of bust and bring into light is there's more than five senses. Your kindergarten teacher lied to you. There are more, and these are the more that if everybody understood, we would have some much more understanding amongst people. So, Angela, I always say the wrong words. So, you go on and talk about these extra three senses because there's eight. We've been lied
Right.
to.
There are 8 senses, y'all. 8. I know a movie tried to like explore the sixth sense, but they didn't have it right either. Although, if you kind of look at some of the stuff, you can understand where people say the sixth sense, in meaning feeling something that other people cannot see or sense that you are. So that is a legitimate thing. Um, and that is where we really get into the whole sensory processing thing. So, yeah, we have the 5 senses that we learn in school, um, seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, and taste. Um, and we do have sensory seeking behaviors in those senses. Say for people who really like to have bright colors and um, like to be in rooms that have a lot of stuff and that feels comfortable for them. And they feel very uncomfortable when they are in a room that is relatively sparse or with all white walls. Those are some examples of like a visual sensory seeking, versus someone who really likes the sparseness and everything, and then they have some of they quickly get visually overloaded. We can have that with all of those senses, but these other three are really crucial to understanding ourselves, to helping us identify why certain things make us feel good, and to incorporating more of those things into our life. So, first, we've got the vestibular sense. The vestibular sense is um, like balance, right? This is so for some people, they freak out when they lay down, okay? If you have a kid who every time it's time for them to lay down, they are crying and getting upset and you don't understand why, it is likely that they have some sensory sensitivity in this vestibular. So imagine when you get like a bad ear infection or you get water in your ear or whatever, that dizziness, that's all part of that vestibular sense. So, okay, I mentioned about kids. Let's talk about adults for just a second and sex. If
We knew it was
you,
coming.
right, of course, if
I even said that
you,
funny.
if you are regularly having trouble, like let's say you're feeling sexy and you're all ready to go and you love maybe having sex on the couch where you're sitting up, or you're sitting on your partner, or maybe your favorite position is that sitting up position. But as soon as you lay down or even think about laying down, that sexy feeling goes away. That could be because of that vestibular sense. Most people have no idea, absolutely no idea about
I
that.
never would have put it in those two correlating together, but that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm going to bring it in because the,
Mm.
being a sexologist is what had me really studying the little bit of studies that I did as a teacher and understanding senses like really came in when I started studying sexuality and understanding how much the senses play into how we feel, for those people who enjoy and want to have sex. Um, so, um, okay, so something that we might do is swing. We might enjoy swinging, right? That might like really reset us and just feel so good. And you get on a swing, and like I'm rocking in my chair right now because I rock in my chair
Yes.
all the time,
So we've
right?
both been like rocking and swaying and doing things, but the more that Angela talks about swinging, I'm going back and forth more and more
Yep.
because I can't help
Yep.
it.
It feels so good for people who enjoy that. That's a seeking behavior, right? Or spinning around in your chair. You know,
Mm.
you're right, like the doctor's office chairs, the ones that don't have a back and they're just the circle and you can like lay on them on your belly and spin and spin and spin and spin and spin. I
I have a
mean, you
spin
see kids do
aversion.
that. Exactly. See, and that's just it. Some people like, nope. Like, what the hell are you doing? I don't want to swing. I don't want to spin. No, thank you. I don't enjoy any of that. That's the
Oh, it's
vestibular sense.
instant anger town if my child like rotates my chair just slightly, like I instantly like get set off because I involuntarily have spun my body and then that is no good.
Right. And that's the
Real
thing
life
is some
example.
people think that they have to be one or the other. And in my experience and in the tool that I use to help people figure out where they are, there's a combined version. And most people fall within that combined version, which means they have some sensory seeking and they have some uh, sensory sensitivities or aversion, whatever people want to call it. Um, so that's vestibular and a little bit more about senses in general. Let's look at the next one, proprioception. So, proprioception is knowing where your body is in space. So, for example, if you are clumsy, you might regularly, Molly is raising
Molly
her hand,
raises her hand.
you might bump into walls, have frequent bruises, maybe fall down, bump into people. Not necessarily something that I do sometimes, like especially if I'm tired, is even though the chair, the arm of my chair is right here in the same place it always is, I will go off to the side and try to put my arm down because I'm not sensing where my body is in spatial relation to everything else.
Tell them about the sweaters.
Oh, I will. I will. So this is where heavy stuff comes in. Okay. Um, People who have sensory seeking in proprioceptive, and a lot of people think that this is touch. It's not touch. It is proprioceptive. When you want to, bless you,
Thank you.
um, when you want to or feel good when maybe you have a weighted blanket or a heavy sweater, or your favorite hoodie puts just the right amount of pressure on your body. um, you can only wear this type of sock. That's not always necessarily just touch, but more proprioception. It helps you know where your body is and it helps you feel grounded, because sometimes we feel like we are like flying or our body isn't quite all together. And so when we do these things and it goes whoop, and our body is together and grounded, I swear this is where that term grounded came from. Even though people didn't understand it necessarily, this is what it feels like to be grounded.
Mhm.
And it's difficult to practice mindfulness or be in the present when you feel like your body isn't all there. So when you can identify where your body is in space and feel that it is all together, that's proprioception. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Um,
The day that Angela was like, "Yeah, you have a proprioceptive issue because you always are wearing sweaters or long sleeves, even in the summer," and I was like, damn it, Angela, so much of my life makes so much more sense. And like just before we got on here, I had a sweater on, but I was getting irritated that it wasn't laying here. So my arms currently feel like floppy T-Rex arms. I mean, they always are floppy T-Rex arms, let's be real. But or I meant pterodactyl, not they're always T-Rex arms, but they feel like floppy pterodactyl arms right now. I'm always a dinosaur, don't ask. And and like I want my sweater, but I don't want my sweater because it was sitting weird here. But like, oh,
Uh-huh.
like kids who wear just the arms of the sweatshirts.
Right. Just
Yes.
the arms of the sweatshirts, which I do often. I yeah, exactly. There are lots of different things, and people are like, why? People think that it's just like here's the regular. Oh, they're just emo because they wear
Oh.
hoodies all the time, or that it's a sign of depression. It's not necessarily. It definitely can correlate, right?
Mhm.
Extrasensory sensitivities and that sort of thing, and seeking behaviors can correlate, um, but are not. It's not definitely that that's what it is. Your kid
Right.
could be wearing their hoodie all of the time because it feels good,
Right.
even though they're really, really hot. It feels good to have that. Um, so we could talk about we could do an entire
Oh my
episode
God. Yeah.
on proprioception. I'm
Proprioception.
going to move
Yes.
on. So
Mhm.
speaking of, they could be hot and not understanding. Um, let's look at interoception. This is the eighth sense that we're talking about today. And this is the one that is our internal stuff. Okay. Um, understanding and feeling that you have to pee. You know, if you're that person who can work for 12 hours sitting in your chair, not noticing that your back is hurting and that you have to pee and that you haven't had anything to eat or drink all day, that's an interoception thing. That is why we have to have reminders and somebody to help remind us, or things on our phone that we're not going to ignore, to help remind us to get up and pee and that sort of thing. So it goes even further than that, though. It's hunger, it's temperature, all of those things that like our internal organs and things regulate, including our feelings.
Extra big feelings.
Yeah. And I just got like, I kind of spread that out and emphasized it because people don't equate feelings with senses. But all of that sensory stuff, all of the eight senses affect our feelings. And then interoception, let's say you're someone who doesn't feel the stuff unless it's a really, really, really big. Like, you don't get scared unless it's something that's like super, super scary. Like, terrifying to somebody else is scary to you. Happy, like, people are like, you're not a happy person. You're like, well, I'm not unhappy. And that's just because on a regular basis, you don't feel the happy that a lot of other people feel because maybe you need it to be extra happy in
Right.
order for you to feel that happy. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with you, but that's how you feel. And that's because of that internal sense that is our feelings. And those are just like some little bitty baby explanations of those things.
Yes. But I think it's a great grounding. Now I'm using grounding. Um, it's a great baby step for people who are like, wait, there's eight sentences. Wait, sentences? No, senses.
Right.
Um, there's eight sentences. Um, and helps kind of get them introduced. I think a lot of neurodivergent parents um, find themselves learning about these things when their kids get diagnosed with sensory processing or sensory dysregulation or whatever their brand of sensory something isn't connecting they're using today. Um, And then parents feel like, but I did that. I felt that, or didn't feel that in some cases. I do that.
Mm.
And that's kind of where this journey starts. Um, and so a lot of parents might have learned, and non-parents, maybe you were listening to your friend talk about their kiddo and you were like, um, or you're a teacher and you don't have kids. Like there's a lot of ways you could find this out
Or you're
through
the
a
person
child.
who got
Oops, we lost you. Hopefully Angela comes back in a few seconds. But what I was getting at is maybe we both got kicked out. Anyway, we'll move on. Is just making sure, or looking at the things that you've learned as a human to do, deal with certain things, and look at how you're feeling and how you're feeling and how sorry, this kicking out thing totally screwed with me. All right, they're trying. Oh no, we this is a change I was not prepared for, everyone. Um anyway, so when you are looking back and you're like, oh, I've experienced, like, we'll give my example of sweaters. I can't tell and I feel dysregulated when I can't feel where my arms are, essentially. And so I know that a hot shower or hot bath helps give the goosebump sensation all over my arms, and that will make me feel better. All right, just a second. We're trying to um, deal with uh, technical difficulties of this stream. And so there are a lot of different ways that we would see this. And this is totally Angela's territory. Here, she's back. Okay. Come on back. This is totally your territory. And I was trying to feed it for a good 5 minutes there. Welcome back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
That
I
was
was just,
so weird.
it was very weird.
I can't screenshot with you.
Uh,
A sorry night.
oh, interesting. Like you just stopped on our this feed, and I just tried to keep going, but I kept getting distracted by the fact that you weren't there. So there's just like this weird part of this episode for everybody to listen to where Molly struggles through a change in the episode. Um, But I was just talking about, I was giving an example of like when I know I'm dysregulated because I can't feel my arms or whatever we're going to call that sense, where I'm usually in a sweater and the sweater's not working. I hop in the shower or take a bath because that super hot feeling where I get the goosebumps all over my arms helps me feel grounded. Um, and I can start to process whatever I needed to process. But I was trying to give, I was trying to lead into, we might like feel like, oh gosh, I experienced that. That's that. Oh no. And then we start this like processing of, I wish I had known these things. And like the grief of not knowing. And that happens through all the diagnosis
Yeah.
journey, whether self-diagnosis or not. You can reflect back on like, okay, how did I resolve this as a kid? Oh, that must be because XYZ. How can I better or improve my response to when I feel that way now that I know, and give myself a better regulation technique in those moments? How can I prevent my body from getting to a point of overload? Like you and Sabra will always be like, Molly, go take a bath. Like,
Yeah.
you guys are really good about noticing things that I don't notice about myself and just being like, you just stop what you're doing. Go, you're about to burn yourself out. do this thing. Can you think of anything? Well, I feel like your stim mags are something that helps keep you kind of.
Yeah. So let's talk about the stim mags and let's talk about what happened. So this is a new thing. Like I have multiple stems, multiple things that I do. I'm constantly moving. I am rocking back and forth or side to side all the time.
Right.
Um, and I used to think it was because I'm super short. So I'm 4'8" for anybody who's listening. I used to think it was because I'm super short and therefore I sit with my legs curled up under me. Like I sit cross-legged all the time. So I used to think that it was just part of that process. You know, if I have my feet hanging down, then my legs are like swinging. It's very uncomfortable. It makes my back hurt, that sort of thing. All of this is actually part of the the sensory my sensory profile. So being able to identify that has led me to having a multitude of things that help me feel good, including people. um, right, like including people that are, hey, I need to have a conversation to help regulate, or I need you to lay on top of me to help me regulate, just depending on who it is and what the situation is. So my stim mags, this is a new thing. It was a Kickstarter earlier this year. It actually started at the middle or late 2022. And I got these little 12 little magnets covered in this perfect texture wondrousness. And and they so for anybody who has played with magnets, they're the two different ends, right? Like you can have two ends and they try to push apart. And that feels really good. I really like the feeling of that. But also how when they are all sticking together, how they move up in a line and I can put them back and do this very repetitive order in which I do. And anybody who's watching, they're like, well, why don't you have them right now? Well,
About that.
they walked away. And we'll just leave it at that, that I am not the only human in my house, and I believe the other human misplaced them because we both played with them. In the meantime, I had ordered another set so that both of us would have our own. And I have a video of this. I should just post it. I went to the mailbox, opened the mailbox. I'm so excited. They're here. I open the package that was already open, and there are none in there. And I sent
Yeah.
Molly a hysterical message.
Make sure you okay. So before she had it, let's go back a few steps because I realize that's how it happened in your head. But there's like a day or two apart from when you went to the mailbox and when you realized they were missing. And there was already like it was before last episode, and we had an entire conversation. We even talked about it on the episode a little bit that you didn't have your stim
Yeah.
mags and it might be a little bit of a cranky day. And because like the devastation, I cannot convey the amount of devastation.
Oh, lots and lots of tears, difficulty regulating. I didn't have my thing.
Like Han
Like,
Solo dying. Come on. Like, oh, oops, sorry guys. If you haven't seen the movie. Like
theoretically, y'all, theoretically.
Theoretically, if Han Solo were to die, that's the devastation. And then you went to the mailbox, and the mailbox,
And
the
I was so
package,
excited, right?
yeah,
Like I was
so
ridiculously
excited.
excited. I got an email, your package has been delivered, da 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 da. And I'm like, dog on leash, keys in hand, run into the mailbox. I'm so excited.
I imagine like May from Turning Red when she gets to go see the four town or whatever it's called.
If I were
um
Molly, I would have been heavily squeaking.
there would have been so much squeaking. But the package was opened. Like when she got to the mailbox, not like accidentally ripped in transport, like somebody intentionally opened the package. Like, because
Maybe.
she,
Maybe,
That
or
was
maybe ripped
not
in
a
transport. You
that was
never
not a
know.
ripped in transport. No, I do know because Steven used to do cargo for mail, and that is not ripped in transport. That was vengefully ripped from you. I doubt they knew who you were. They just saw a package and they opened it. But um anyway, I just wanted to convey the actual level emotions because you told that story very calmly, and you needed some bipolar emotion assistance.
I
Help
was
you.
completely devastated, and it had a really big effect on me. Like, my work right now is really intense, and I'm doing a lot, and I need to stim a lot to be able to maintain the energy and be regulated enough to do the very concentrated activities that I am doing right now. Um, and 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 I have no choice but to have to deal with people sometimes, right? Like, that's part of the job. When
It's
you
part
are
of
a leader,
humaning.
you have to deal with people sometimes. And it has been very difficult for me to have to deal with people, to the point where I have looked at my compatriot, and I have said, I can't people. I am glad that we are symbiotic CEOs and both of us doing this together, because I can't. You're going to have to do that. I cannot talk to people. I
Hmm.
can talk to you. I can't talk to people. I'm not doing it. Right? Like,
Yeah.
so it is
You are not
stimming
people.
is right. Stimming is necessary. Stimming is not something that is just um oh, you just need to have some self-control and not do that. It is necessary and supportive of us doing the things that we want to do.
Right.
As a
And
teacher, I walked all the time. I walked, 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 walked. I had spinning chairs in my classroom. I would sit and spin on a chair, or I turned the chair around and sat straddling the chair with my arms over the chair, playing with something in my hand while I was having a conversation. Like, that job allowed me to stim constantly and not really think about it. But me being that way also made me that teacher who was honest with the kids about tapping their pencils. Like, I'm sorry, you can't do that. That noise drives me insane. Here, what are the solutions for you to tap or play with something? And I had STEM toys, like crazy amounts of them in my room for people to be able to use, because
yep.
it helps. It helps the cognitive function. We should not have to spend our energy thinking about not doing something that's not freaking hurting anybody else.
Right. And so my kiddo at home is sensory seeking in all the things. I can't express to you all the things. All the things. Um there's a lot of not expressing I can do today because I've said that 4 times. I feel like Otter is going to tell me it
You
was
have some
300, but
very
it's fine.
intense people in your life.
I do. I am one of them. Um
Me too.
but and there are times I I shit y'all not. Chicken wing is screamed in our house almost all the time in different variations. And then sometimes it's a callback. Like, it's not a single person needs to do chicken wing, chicken wing. It's everybody needs to sing chicken wing, chicken wing. In either that or the Batman version of Jingle Bells. They're like all the time. And there are times where I'm like, I realize that you need to sing chicken wing at the top of your lungs, but if you do not whisper chicken wing, mom is going to scream. Just like a banshee. That's all mom's going to be able to do because
Yeah.
I cannot listen to chicken wing that loud anymore. I can't even figure out what I'm doing. Um and it's like we do try and find something new. Like, can we put chicken wing on repeat in your headphones? Can we, put chicken wing on the Google Play so that you listen to chicken wing versus screaming chicken wing? Um, or, just
Which
random
may or
noises
may
or
not
whatever.
work depending on what
Right.
sense is being stimulated by that. Like, do they actually need to have that words coming out of their mouth in order to regulate, right? And you
Yeah, I
never
never
know. It's
know.
not a simple thing. It's
No.
trial and error.
Yes, and there's sometimes I try and distract with something more exciting than screaming chicken wing, chicken wing. Like, let's go play Switch and do Pokemon Violet because um so one of our routines is I play Pokemon Violet until we get to a battle, and then Blaine, child, plays the game. But in between, oh gosh, camera. In between that, while I am wandering around collecting max revives or TMs or whatever, um, my kiddo is using our couch as a jungle gym and is half upside down and doing hand push-ups and like rolling. Oh, I'm going to build Legos for a minute. I'm going to sing chicken wing. Next thing I know, they're making a YouTube video for Blaine's YouTube channel, which is Blaine's Party. If you would like to pay attention to that, I'm going to make a plug for my child's YouTube. Shameless plug for child's YouTube. Um, uh, anyway, and so it's just like I have had to stop thinking that my child is going to sit still and play the game, or my child is going to not scream chicken wing at the top of their lungs. I hope you all have experienced the annoyance of chicken wing through this episode because I just needed to, make it a mutual experience for us all. Um, but um, but all of that then activates my, what is it? Sympathetic nervous system. Is that the words that you would use in
Oh
that case?
yeah. Oh yeah. Fight flight mode
Okay.
activated. Sympathetic nervous system.
Uh, and then I start ticking like nobody's business. So, in case nobody knew, for Tourette's, tics are specifically physical and auditory movements, noises that you make like almost simultaneously, or like almost like sometimes I can do one or the other, but I eventually have to combine them together. Otherwise, my brain is going to explode, or at least it feels that way. Um, and So I do stim, like you'll see my chair is rocking right now back and forth. This is the amount of rocking I can handle. Any more than that and I will scream. Or like I like pick at my nails and do stuff. But when it comes to ticks, they are very, very specific. And then they all kind of bleed together because I'll be doing this and then all of a sudden I'll like and then I squeak and I shake. But it does feel like it comes from the same place. Like I'm dysregulated, so my tics increase.
Yep.
And like before I understood all this, I would be like, it feels like my body can't process emotion, and it's like I'm having an electrical discharge. Um, and I still feel that way. I explain it to my kid. I'm Pikachu, and I had too much energy.
Hmm.
And because Blaine's always like, "Stop ticking, mom." I'm like, I can't. But I do like they kind of blend together. And sometimes I still do this even when I'm just stimming because it's like the only thing that'll fix it. And that was me having two fists on either side of my arms with T-Rex arms and shaking. Um, so I lost where the train of thought was going, but I think I said what I needed to say.
So, so we often have multiple needs in an environment where one person stims in one way, and that stim can trigger another person. So, for example, I can only deal with certain sounds. And one thing that I really, 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 really like, my sympathetic nervous system goes haywire when a song repeats the same thing over and over and over again.
Oh, TikTok must be
Or,
so fun.
oh, I mean, I don't, no, that doesn't happen. I don't, number one, I don't have very much time to spend on there. I really only look at videos when people send them, and occasionally I post them. Um, but for that reason, like to me, that's not regulated. That doesn't feel good. Whereas my husband does the echolalia thing where he'll say, the same thing over and over. My son, when he was younger, especially with math, would do this over and over and over thing. Um,
Mhm.
Doing different math problems, like the same math problem over and over and over. Um, and that gets me going. And then we've got, if we are not aware of it and we don't know how to put other things in place, then what happens is we've got sympathetic nervous system ignited, sympathetic nervous system ignited, and then it just goes up and up and up, and we're fight, flight, fight, flight, fight, flight, fight, flight. We have to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. We have to do things that help us feel regulated, that help us feel comfortable, that help us feel safe, so that we can rest and digest. I can't even think of what it's called right now. But that's the analogy that people use for sympathetic
Mhm.
nervous system versus parasympathetic. Sympathetic being fight flight, parasympathetic being rest and digest. So, stimming allows us to regulate by engaging the parasympathetic nervous system in times when the sympathetic nervous system is has already taken control or is getting close to being activated. We want to recognize those kinds of times as well as know what to do when we are in them in order to help ourselves regulate. And that's what helps us prevent burnout.
And I do want to point out, because I am always talking about the kiddos when we I'm the kiddo talker. No, that sounded weird. It is kiddos can get burnout too. So if you
Mhm.
have a kiddo who you have reports of your kid is so great in class. They're always so social with their friends and they are doing so well. And then that child comes home and crashes like a little demon monster. Um, Not that they are a demon monster, but they just resemble like the demon state of Baby Jack Jack from Incredibles. And lots of Disney references today. Um, and
As there
that
should be.
that is kiddo burnout. That is kiddo using all of their effort and energy to like hide all the things at school. Um, and then coming home to their safe place and collapsing. And it is important to slowly, I'm not asking you to do this overnight, but as a family, like a neurodivergent human family, it is important to acknowledge each person's needs. And that means your picture of home and how things happen is going to be significantly different than a neurotypical family. Family dinners might be everybody sitting in a different part of the house enjoying their safe foods, having quiet time or loud time in their room. It might be that a couple of you sit at the table while one of you sits in the kitchen, or whatever that is. Video games before bed to help kind of soothe the mind, to help it so that it slows down, or maybe
Or
it's
vice
quiet
versa.
reading. Yes.
Or
Like,
vice versa, saying no video games after 7 p.m. because then you
right.
can't get your brain to slow down and be able to sleep. Like,
Right. There
everybody is different and it's all normal.
Right. And so my end point is, look at the things that if you've been having big struggle points, um and even if there's not kiddos at home and it's just you and your partner, if you've been having big struggle
Or just
points,
you.
or just you, over what you envision things need to be versus what keeps happening, I would ask yourself, is it really worth the struggle? And if it is worth the struggle, then by all means, like, go for it. But if it's not worth the struggle and it's not you, it was only something because somebody was shitting on you,
Mhm.
um, then take a moment and see if that's something you really want. And if you don't, and it's not important to you, then do what is important to you and accommodate where you can and where you feel comfortable, and do it in baby steps.
Yeah.
Because too much change might cause more trouble.
Right.
So,
Point being, it is our environment that is disabling, right? Our neurological condition is not necessarily disabling.
Mm-mm.
Our environment and how it plays along with our neurological condition or conditions, because usually we've got multiple, is what is disabling. So when we have awareness and we can understand what adjustments to make in our environment, we can remove a disability in that environment. And that's really what, when we are talking about workplace accommodations, which I really prefer to call adjustments, this is what we're talking about. We are talking about creating an environment where people can do the things to be productive in the way they want to, that is supporting the company and the money making and all of that crap that sometimes keeps people from seeing how a tiny adjustment and allowing that is actually more in their benefit than they realize.
Right. All right. Well, that was a journey that we have taken everybody on today. Thank you for bearing with us if you made it this far after the technical glitch. And we hope to see you next week for our next episode.
Yes.
So, all right. I think that's all we have for today.
Awesome. That's so exciting. This was a great episode. I really do hope that people got things out of it. I hope that you send us questions or share your story.
Yeah.
Either on our website or on YouTube or on whatever podcast channel you are listening to. We would love to hear your experiences um, and share them if you want us to. Um, Okay, thanks for listening to Drudgery Dreams and In Between, a weekly live podcast coming to you every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. If you're catching this live on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel for updates when we're back here next week. For all you podcast geeks, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We're on them all. If you'd like to support the podcast, be sure to leave a rating and review and share with your friends. To catch all the latest from us, visit us at drudgeryanddreams.com and follow on your favorite social media platforms at Drudgery and Dreams. Thanks again. See you next time.